Hey everyone, welcome to the Burnt Brass Homestead channel. I did a video a few weeks ago about a fox stalking our meat birds. I saw that there was fresh scat near the mobile coops on multiple occasions in a week's time. The way the scat or animal droppings looked, I wasn't sure if it was fox or raccoon, so I set up a couple webcams to see what was going on at night. The fox would stalk the meat birds a few times in one evening. The closer we got to butchering, the more nervous I got, so I decided that I would build a live trap when I got a chance. A live trap is when you trap an animal alive, at which point you can transport the animal to another location, or not. The fox wasn't the only thing I was interested in trapping. We have a couple groundhogs that climb into our garden and eat our vegetables. So I was hoping the trap will work on them as well. I wanted to make the trap using everything that was already available here on the homestead. So I decided to use this empty speaker case that was sitting in the garage for over a year or so. The first thing I did was remove the bottom piece that I didn't need. There were two here and I should have removed both, but I just removed the bottom one, and that was because I needed to place the supports that would hold the trap door. I then used the hammer to punch out the bottom of the speaker, being careful not to damage it as it would be used later. Then I used the saw to cut a section of the speaker where the trap door support pieces would go. Next was to cut the supports for the trap door. I measured the top, but I didn't measure the bottom, so I didn't realize that the speaker was not squared until I went to install the supports. But that wasn't a big deal. Once I cut out all of the supports, I used a nail gun to attach all of the pieces. If I didn't have a nail gun, I would have used a hammer or screws in my hand drill. I then used a saw to cut an opening in the base. This piece of wood is not very solid. It's like that composite wood where they take a lot of small pieces and press it together. So I figured if I left the edges and just cut out the center, it would provide more support for the trap door. Because whatever animal is caught inside, I would expect it to kick and do whatever else it needs to do to try to get free. So I am hoping by keeping the edges and cutting out the center, it will make this piece more sturdy. The large speaker hole was covered with hardware cloth and stapled down to keep the trapped animal from escaping. I made sure to use a good amount of staples. The two smallest holes were left as is. There is no way a fox or groundhog could fit through them. They were left uncovered to allow me to place bait in the back of the trap, as well as to insert a stick or barrel in the hole to handle the animal inside. And finally, I used this scrap piece of wood from a shelving project a couple years ago to make the trap door. The door needs to have a little weight behind it so that it isn't easy for it to be lifted once it's triggered shut. So I took the measurements of the inner portion of the supports, then used a saw to cut two pieces to make the door thick and somewhat heavy. The little bracket you see here will be used to hover the door over the support rail so that when triggered, the door will drop in place. The last three components of this trap is what makes it work. This small stick is the trigger mechanism. I cut a nice sized notch in it, which will be used to lock onto the box, thus holding the trap door in place. There's also a smaller notch on the top to hold the string in place so that it stays on. As long as nothing touches this stick, It should keep the door hovering over the support rails. This longer stick is what connects the trigger to the trap door. It holds the trap door directly over the support rails with the help of this bar that acts as an anchor. Once the trigger is activated, it releases its hold from the box and the trap door falls. As you can see, it is getting dark, but I really wanted to get the trap in place, so here it is assembled in the back of the property near the chicken coop. I picked some blackberries from the blackberry bush and placed it in the back of the trap. I didn't feel like going back in the house to get a piece of meat. This trap is long enough for the fox to climb all the way in to get the bait, hopefully releasing the trigger and trapping it inside. We will see. This is the next day after the trap was put in place. It's mid-afternoon. After looking at the trail cams, I confirmed that the fox nor groundhog visited this area of the yard. Here is a good look inside the trap. As you can see, it is pretty deep enough for an animal the size of a fox to climb all the way in, trigger the trap, and have the door shut behind it.